Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2018 Career Mode, episode number 131 today for the Spanish Grand Prix in Season 7. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check that out before you see this one. Quite a chaotic one, as it always is at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and we had a pretty questionable time at Baku, a double no points finish for both myself and Charles Leclerc after having different situations of being a little bit screwed over really in the race. So we have to come to Spain with a bit of a clean slate, clear our minds, push that away, and try and just move on now. It's the start of the real European season, and you can see here a bit of a plateau situation for the top three, but the likes of Mercedes, McLaren improving. Ferrari actually, after becoming the worst team on the grid last episode, actually funny enough, straight away bounced back. So maybe my words of discouragement kind of got through to them, and they upgraded straight away, quite hastily there, to get back into the second last place slot ahead of Williams there. But I think that's going to be a season-long battle, perhaps, between Ferrari and Williams to not be last in the performance chart there. But for us, we're still ahead of Red Bull Honda just by a tick, and it is all station. I think all three of our teams, basically Renault, Red Bull and Sauber, we've all hit basically the maximum we can get out the car on the R&D tree. So it really is going to be about race to race, which car is more comfortable. Coming to Catalonia, you would assume maybe the Red Bull would go better. Last season when we were at Red Bull, we got a very surprising result with myself and Verstappen in terms of the qualifying and the race. And so I think the Red Bull should naturally be the best car around here out of us three, but we'll have to see. For now, Renault were the ones at the top of the timesheets in Q1. Q2, we do a little bit better and we do improve. We had to go for 2 running laps though, because I'm in P7 after the first lap I did in Q2, and I wasn't 100% about my time, so we do a lot better, and we get up into P3 then. So in the end, maybe I could have risked it for a chocolate biscuit on just gone for 1 run, but one man that shouldn't have risked it was Carlos Sainz. He is knocked out of Q2 for the very first time in this season, I think. I think it's the first time a Renault has not made it into Q3, if I remember correctly, at least out of pure just pace, not an incident there. Sainz just got it all wrong, so he's not in the top 10 shootout. So here we go now into Q3. We set that first lap time actually on a scrub set of tyres. So this set now is on a brand spanking new set of tyres. We're only just about improving a little bit there. I thought we were going to improve by so much more, considering that first set was a scrub set I used in Q1. And so to my surprise, across the line, it's an improvement for us into P3. But Pierre Gasly second place, and the biggest surprise is Daniel Ricciardo out of nowhere in the top 10 shootout. Pulls out of the bag. He's on pole position, is improved McLaren Renault. So obviously McLaren came with upgrades this season, but in the past, McLaren have never exponentially improved in pace when they've had upgrades. It's really mostly been teams like Toro Rosso and Force India. Every time they seem to make an upgrade on the performance chart, they seem to jump up so much in the actual real terms on the track. But Ricciardo and McLaren there, fantastic result. Alonso only P4. We've done well to get ahead of him. Leclerc just behind him, so we've done well to match the Renault. The Red Bulls, apart from Gasly, obviously, who's done the job. Verstappen, very disappointing. So very, very odd. And once again, the teammates are doing the better job. Gasly, the new one at Red Bull. Alonso, the new one at Renault. And again, Ricciardo, the new one at McLaren, doing the better job than the other teammate on the other side of the garage, who should be more, in theory, comfortable with the car around them here in Season 7. So at least we got the job done against Leclerc. Obviously, we're level on points after last episode, so really there wasn't much in it in terms of the championship, but hopefully I can get the better of him around Catalonia. It's always a track I've enjoyed in the race in the past seasons of this career mode. So let's just go to the race then. Second row of the grid, alongside our old teammate Alonso from Season 3, and ahead of us we've got a very odd front row, so hopefully we can have a bit of an odd result and maybe even go for the race win. You never know. Let's just get into it and let's go to the grid.
Good afternoon from a very familiar setting. It's race day here in Spain, and with everything still to play for in the championship battle, there's no room for mistakes in a Grand Prix that's well known for creating them. It's a sellout crowd of 140,000 here today as we await lights out for the 730-metre sprint down to turn 1 of this 2.9-mile racetrack. Overtaking is challenging through these 16 corners, but there's still a lot of high-speed excitement to be found, including the flat-out turn 3 and the terrifying blind right of turn 9.
So let's have a look then at the starting grid ahead of this Spanish Grand Prix for Season 7 of my F1 2018 career mode. In a very surprising pole position then yesterday with Daniel Ricciardo in his McLaren on pole alongside the Frenchman Pierre Gasly in the first of the two Red Bull Hondas in the top 10. Then the next row, myself and Fernando Alonso, the lead Renault man, with Carlos Sainz disappointing yesterday. Charles Leclerc, Hulkenberg next with Verstappen, Hamilton the next row. And then Van Dorn and Carlos Sainz in P9 and P10. Hartley, Bottas, Magnussen, Sergio Perez down to P14 with Grosjean and Vettel sharing a row. Ocon with a penalty down in P17, Raikkonen 18th, and then the last row reserved for both Williams cars of Lance Stroll and Sergei Sorokin ahead of Catalonia, the Spanish Grand Prix in Season 7. Right, so here we are in a pretty damn good second row slot here in third place alongside Alonso, and ahead of us directly is Dan Ricciardo in a very surprising pole position. So strategy-wise, it will be a two-stop here, and even our default strategy thinks we can comfortably do that on two sets of soft tyres after the super soft stint we have to use, so that's pretty encouraging for the tyre wear's sake. Lower fuel because the engine has been pretty efficient as of late, so let's just get into it then and see what we can do from the second row of the grid as we head towards 5 red lights. The Spanish Grand Prix, the start of the European portion of the season. The lights are out and we're underway, and it's a good getaway there for Pierre Gasly on the right hand side. A little bit of a mediocre one for ourselves, and Ricciardo might be pinched into turn 1 for the race lead. Meanwhile, Leclerc on my left as well as Alonso with a big old dive to the inside. Bit of contact made between Gasly and Ricciardo, but we somehow also managed to keep it in P3 despite losing actually those two places momentarily there with a big old dive from Leclerc and Alonso, who still are at it as we go through turn 3. A little bit of contact was made there on the long right hander, but it is Leclerc that's unfortunately come out the worst there, and he's down to P5 as Alonso's up into P4. Gasly now, as we move on to lap 2 though, will be looking for the race lead. He's in the slipstream of Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. The Red Bull should in theory be faster than the McLaren, and so there you go. I think he's going to use that performance advantage there to the inside of turn 2, and he's up into first place. Ricciardo down to P2, and it might be only a matter of time before he goes down the order, because on paper that McLaren isn't better than the Sauber Renault Red Bull, so I think he's done some magic in qualifying. I doubt he'll be able to do enough magic though today on race day to keep this into a top 3 position, and right now at the moment you can see we're all over the back of him, so I think it's only a matter of time and only a matter of patience for us before we overtake him basically as we move on now towards lap 3. Gasly sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix unsurprisingly, but here we come now. No DRS yet activated, just pure slipstream and pure overtake mode on the ERS and Rich Mix, and we've already got him into turn 1. A pretty easy, simple move for us into turn 1, and we're up into P2 of this Spanish Grand Prix, so a very good start then for us actually, all things considered. And now as we move on through the first phase of the Grand Prix, we look to a replay then of Alonso overtaking Ricciardo. Then on the outside, the Spaniard will go, of course, at his home Grand Prix, up into P3. Leclerc close behind though, right up the gearbox of Ricciardo now, so hopefully he can also get up just for the sake of, obviously we had a no points finish, the entire Alfa Romeo Sauber team, so both of us, I want us to both do well in this Grand Prix to try and fight back against Red Bull and Renault in the constructors. As we now move to lap 5, we've gone for a very early pit stop here. My engineer asking me if I wanted to come a little bit earlier than was scheduled than default pit stop, so we're going to make that and try and make an undercut work if we can and try and gain a bit on Gasly. He did get away from us a little bit in those first 5 laps, so I don't know. I think he might be a bit out of touch, and like I said, Red Bull in theory should be a very good car around this circuit. I think that's what you're seeing right now in the race. At least, it didn't happen in qualifying for Gasly, but in the race on higher fuel, he seems to have the pace. We'll see about that, because we come out now down the pit exit into what will be last place, actually just behind the Williams car there, but that's not a worry. Of course, we've made a very early pit stop, so as long as we don't get held up in too much traffic, we still should come out in P2, and hopefully maybe even getting away a little bit from the likes of Alonso, Leclerc, Ricciardo. Those guys are fighting each other. But one of the big ifs will be that traffic we face, and so immediately already having to try and awkwardly overtake Sergei Sorokin. Can't work it around the outside there, and he maintains the position, but into the next corner he locks up quite nicely there. Great timing for me as we go down the inside, and we're up now the order into P15 as we move on to lap 7. 2 laps later, you can see we are ahead of Alonso now on the top left there, but we are getting held up still by Alonso, Stroll and Leclerc, and he's only just come in now on this lap for his first pit stop here, so we haven't been held up by Alonso Stroll for an entire lap or anything. We only just caught him up now in this last sector, but you just never know really how what the lap times have been like for Leclerc versus myself and Alonso on these outlaps after the pit stop. So as Stroll comes in, Raikkonen actually surprisingly stays out there in the Ferrari ahead of us, so he's going for a bit of a one-stop. Alonso now is attacking me on the left-hand side there with DRS, but there goes Leclerc then as we have a bit of a screen freeze across the line. We're going to go defensive against Alonso to the inside of turn 1, very, very tight on the line of the curbing. We're going to maintain that position ahead of the Spaniard there, and Leclerc has come out behind us. So all three of us maintain our race positions positions compared to each other, and now all three of us have to try and contend with a bit of traffic here as Raikkonen is so slow into turn 1 there. You can see how much the Ferrari car really has dropped off into performance there, as he doesn't have the downforce to carry the speed that myself and Alonso are, and you can see Alonso is really hustling and harrying me, and all three of us are closing up to Raikkonen, and there's a bit of a train forming. We're not worried, even behind LeClerc, and so we need to make this overtake very quickly on Raikkonen. We go a little bit wide on purpose on the right, try and cut back in on the left. Raikkonen very, very slow mid-apex there. We make some contact. He's pushed onto the gravel a little bit, and Alonso pushes past him as well. So both myself and Alonso pushing each other to the limits, and pushing the tracks to the limits in a way, trying to push each other on this circuit as we maintain the position for now. But for how much longer, as Alonso will now maybe come once again with DRS. Will he have the overspeed? Obviously our engine is very good, and it's actually technically the best engine on the grid, I think, if you factor in the ERS and fuel consumption. And so for now we do maintain that position once again into P1. Ahead of us though, the likes of Vettel, the Haas, the Force India, being overtaken actually by one Pierre Gasly. Remember, he is the race leader. He's already made his pit stop. I suspect the Force Indias, both Haas cars there and Vettel, all trying to do a one-stop from soft tire to mediums, whereas Gasly there, you can see actually the gap he's got. It looks like he might be on for a comfortable race win, to be honest, as we now move on to lap 12, and Alonso has overtaken me. He's waltzed past me there in a straight line with DRS, but he's locked up badly on both front left and right, and so he's given up the position to not only myself, but also Charles Leclerc, and so that's a free position for Leclerc, and now we're going to be running P4 and P5 across the line. Leclerc is going to try and go for a move. We're going to have to go defensive for him, so this is the first time I'm battling Leclerc in this Grand Prix yet, and obviously I want to try and get the better of him. We're on level points in the championship, so this race will matter a fair bit for the teammate rivalry, so we do maintain the position, just about having to dip one tyre onto the green stuff, the green AstroTurf, on the exit of turn 2. And now for a second time on lap 14, Leclerc will come knocking there on the right hand side. We're going to squeeze him to the inside, but Alonso is also coming pretty damn quickly there. He's tapped us round and we're on the grass, and we've just got across the track and somehow not sideswiped Leclerc or Alonso, or in fact the Mercedes car of Hamilton, as we come back on track, and somehow we've actually survived that in one piece. No damage on the front wing there. Very lucky to get away with that, as Alonso came in so quickly, and just a little tiny love tap, I think it was, on the front left there, caused that incident. You can see there we go, replay here, on border from Alonso, and there's hardly any contact there. Literally from Alonso's POV, there is hardly any kind of even reaction from him, from his side of things, so the contact really wasn't that much. I guess it was the momentum of the two tyres rubbing against each other that flew us round. This is on board from Leclerc's angle, and you can see we're about to come across his screen very comically, actually, in a way, across turn 1 apex there. And like I said, very lucky that I didn't sideswipe Leclerc out of the Grand Prix, or indeed Alonso there. Otherwise that could have been far more controversial than it was. But having a look at the replay off board there, you can see just a very weird bit of contact there. I think it was the tyres rubbing that just spun me round, and I was very lucky to come away just with losing those 3 positions in the end too, because Hamilton goes very slow on the exit into turn 3 there. And so I would just take to the escape row on the swimming policeman, but a very dramatic half spin or slide or dramatic drift nonetheless. Meanwhile though, behind us then, you've got Ricciardo battling Verstappen. This was whilst I had my little drift, and whilst I had my drift, Verstappen did not have the same luck. He is out of the Grand Prix in that same place on the track, as he gets his front left tyre sheared off there. And so us two former teammates from Red Bull last season, one has the luck, i.e. me, and Verstappen has some more bad luck this season. I think that's his second DNF of the year so far. So very, very bad stuff there for the Dutchman as we now move on. We actually kept up with Leclerc and Alonso on those next 3 laps after my kind of half drift there, and onto lap 17, onto lap 18, Alonso comes in then for his second and final pit stop, and we're going to continue on chasing after our teammate. So in a weird way, I'm kind of thankful we went behind those two, because I picked up my pace a little bit. It's kind of, I've had this in the past where I definitely drive a little bit faster, a bit more kind of concentrated when I'm chasing a car. You get that kind of tunnel vision, and you have something to aim for, a yardstick. And so you can see now with DRS available, we are really closing up on Leclerc to the point where I had to lift off there into turn 1, because he got his braking a little bit unsighted there, and we almost slammed in the back of our teammate. So we are very much keeping him honest now as we move on for a long while into the Grand Prix now. We're on lap 20, 13 laps to go. Leclerc then comes in. I continue on for one more lap, lap 21. So we've stretched this 4-5 more laps than Alonso has. So definitely the tyre wear really is very decent in the Alfa Romeo Sauber car. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, Alonso, who had made the early pit stop, he gets held up in some traffic there with Sebastian Vettel locking up there, and the Ferrari really not looking any better despite those upgrades, and he's closing up to the Force India. But that's what I was hoping for, and that's why I continued on, and clearly why Leclerc continued on, because our car had some good pace in clean air, and Alonso hit traffic. So here's hoping. I think there might be a very good chance we've jumped Alonso, because if Alonso had continued on with us, I think for sure Leclerc would have overtaken him with DRS, and I was very close to overtaking Leclerc, so we might have a very good chance of maybe even jumping both of them. Let's see as we exit our pit box in a very short run to the pit exit lane, and we're going to look now on the right hand side as the camera shot switches, and there is Leclerc on the right, there is Alonso there. Looks like we'll just about maybe slot in between those two. Yes, we will. And so Leclerc has jumped Alonso in with that overcut, and we've done the same. So Alonso and Renault have called that badly. They timed that pit stop all wrong with the traffic, and now it's just going to be me and Leclerc, two Saubers versus each other now for maybe third place and second place here. This could be quite a nice tasty battles. We have DRS open. Leclerc sits in the middle of the track. We go to the left hand side. He's going to really outbrake us though into turn 1, but we hang it around the outside then into turn 2. We're on the curbing though a little bit, and we have to give up some space there on the inside of turn 3. We're very close on the exit. Leclerc swiped across us, and that's very, very controversial. What on earth was Charles doing there? I don't know what his throttle looked like there, but from my POV, that just looked like he'd love tapped us off the circuit. So that is a little bit rude, and we definitely have been bullied a little bit by all the grid so far this race. We got bullied by Alonso earlier with that half drift, and now we've been bullied by our own teammate there. So I'm not quite liking it. Maybe I need to repay the favour and get the elbows out a bit more and drive a bit more aggressively in a way, because I've been a bit too kind to them clearly around Catalonia. As we now move on lap 24, we're maintaining the pace though, and we are keeping Alonso honest, and I'm hoping, like last stint, I can try and catch up to Alonso and this time not run out of lap, and that actually might be a bit more of a hidden reason why Leclerc's not waltzing away and actually backing Alonso into me, because we go to some team radio now.
Some information on Leclerc. They have an issue with their car. They're going to be slow.
So Leclerc has issues with his car, and usually that team radio does mean they're going to slow down to the point where it's going to be an easy overtake. So myself and Fernando might be joining each other very closely. If Leclerc can maybe even hold him up somewhat whilst he has a slow car, this might be perfect as we move on to these very awkward camera angles. But the gist of it is, look at this now, within literally half a lap, Leclerc's gone so slow that he's backed up Alonso right into me. We're nose to tail almost, or he's nose to tail with Leclerc. And so as you go through the last sector then, it's just about trying to line this up, and this could be a very tasty two-man pass potentially for P2 in this Grand Prix. So here we go through the last corner, get the power down very early compared to Alonso, and for the first time I've actually got some good traction there. Open DRS, overtake mode, rich mix, there we go. Alonso goes for the move. We're going to go and use the double toe, go make it 3 wide momentarily for a split second, and in the end, by the end of the straight into turn 1, we're on to P2 of this Spanish Grand Prix. Alonso up into P3 though, and unfortunately for Leclerc, I think he might be moving down and down the order. There's no one there on the minimap quite yet, but I think P5 is Carlos Sainz, and then you've got Ricciardo also in the mix there. So if the issue doesn't sort itself out for Leclerc, he might unfortunately find himself only getting a couple of points for his efforts this afternoon, which is going to be quite a shame really, because I mean, fair play, he was doing a great job so far this season. I mean, I've got to put my hands up. He's done a great job this entire season so far already versus myself in this Alfa Romeo Sauber car. But now we move on to better things and more important things, because Alonso is trying to attack us. He's got DRS open, but into turn 1 he locks up very badly, and that looked like maybe a surefire overtake for the Spaniard, but no, he's made a mistake, a very uncharacteristic mistake, and he's forfeited some time there on the tables. We now move on to lap 32, and now we've only got 2 laps left in this Grand Prix. Really has flown by in this last third here, and Alonso's going to go for one last chance potentially with DRS open. He dives it on the left hand side. We're side by side into turn 1 on the apex though. Smoke coming out of Alonso's car, and I think that's it for Alonso. I think that's curtains for him here at the Spanish Grand Prix. Such a bad place to do it. His home race there in front of the home fans. Alonso is going to slow down at the exit of turn 3. Yellow flags are out. You can see on the top left there, Ricciardo is going to be promoted up into P3 in the McLaren there. So what a race there for the Aussie man in the McLaren. The McLaren really hasn't been a top car for now for a few seasons, since season 3 once I left the team. But he's up into P3. Looks like the upgrades have worked from McLaren. Maybe that pole position one wasn't so fluky, because McLaren have genuinely made improvements. Because I think Ricciardo's tried a one-stop here today because he's on medium tyres, and it's worked out there, albeit with some luck, but he's up into P3, so fair play. But it's going to be Pierre Gasly, though, is the man of the hour, the man of the race, winning this Grand Prix in such a dominant fashion for Red Bull Honda there. No one could touch him, and we're going to come home in a P2 that I've got to be pretty damn happy about, because like I said, Gasly was so dominant there, no one could touch him. So P2, I will very much take that for the start of the European season.
Good job, you did really well. Super driving.
Brilliant stuff from Red Bull today. What a superb victory. And I have to wonder, Anthony Davidson, just what set them apart from the competition here.
Well, I think the track conditions just really suited their car today. Wind, track temperature, you name it. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature. So the more easily you can keep them there, the better your race tends to go. And that's exactly what happened. Their car just looks so comfortable out there.
So, a very odd Grand Prix, really. Had it all. We had some half spins, some engine failures, a bit of teammate contact and controversy there, and in the end we have P2. So, I really can't complain, but a great race for Ricciardo in third place. I've got to say, he's probably done the best job out of everyone there in the top 10, but Gasly, with a very dominant performance, sees him take the top of the leaderboard there in the championship standings there, ahead of Alonso. So, it looked like Alonso was so dominant ahead of everyone there. The points gap was about 34 points before this race from myself to him. It's now down to some 20, but Gasly takes the lead, and in the constructors, Red Bull Honda take the lead ahead of Renault. So it is not over yet. Looks like Red Bull has something to say about it, and they're not going to let Renault and Alonso walk away with it at this early stage of the season. So we have a bit of a fight on our hands now, Red Bull v Renault, and we at Alfa Romeo Sauber are trying our best to get in the mix, but you can tell right now at the moment, you know, LECLERC, I think, is there. He just needs some luck. And myself, I still need to get used to this car, really, to be honest. I'm not fully feeling it yet. And obviously, I haven't won a race yet this season. So until that really happens, I can't really say I'm feeling good about maybe challenging the likes of Gasly and Alonso. But, you know, we move on now. We're going to Monaco next. It's going to be a very interesting time around there. But we're going to move to the end of the episode in the meanwhile, in the short term, and answer some questions from Claire.
Great work out there today. How do you think it went? Everything went your way today. It looked like you had a really good strategy for the race.
Got to say, a good strategy and a great car for managing the tyres, because the tyre wear really was non-issue.
We all underestimated you, didn't we?
And I would say so. I mean, it's no race win yet. P2, it's great, but it's still not no race win. There's a bit more of a surprise there. But I'm going to say on the right-hand side, my team had faith in me and have a bit of a rep increase there for my team.
Great. Well, that's everything.
But there we have it then, the end of a interesting race weekend there, to say the least. So guys, if you did enjoy that episode, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, you can subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. The next one is the Monaco Grand Prix. So far, there is the season stats, how everyone's finished up, and you can see how good Alonso actually has been, though. He's only finished in the top 2, let alone those 2 DNFs. When he's not DNF'd, he's been in the top 2, so he's still going to be a big force to reckon with, but the likes of Gasly and Red Bull are coming back at him, and I want to say, hopefully, me and LECLERC can really consistently get in the mix there and be a bit of a spanner in the works for those two teams and annoy them to hell the next few episodes. Here's hoping, knock on wood. But till then, guys, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.